What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
I'll keep on repeating, and I hope that between now and the federal election, that it will become the ballot question for Quebecers. Support, please, the party that we will say we will reduce by half the number of temporary immigrants. So I will repeat that until the day of the federal election. In the meantime, before the electoral campaign, I'll try to convince Mr. Trudeau. But so far, after 6 months, I was unable to convince him.
Okay. Francois Legault, again, bringing up this idea of trying to convince the Bloc that they should add something with respect to immigration in their list of demands to the federal Liberal government. James MENNIE's on the line over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, he's not giving up on this, is he?
No, he's not, and quite frankly, it's gone from being a government to a sitcom called Whose Fault Is It Anyway? Every single day, Francois Legault he says he's going to be mentioning this because everything that is wrong in this country, everything that's wrong in Quebec is, of course, the high levels of immigration. Mr. Trudeau doesn't want to know. And I don't know if you've mentioned or you heard this today, this afternoon, but Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, head of the PQ, has become sucked into this. He acknowledged, he has discussed the whole issue of Yves-François Blanchet of the Bloc Québécois, including a demand in his October 29th deadline for having the level of immigration into Quebec by the feds. He was kind of talking about it rather gingerly, rather like he was going to the dentist when he had to answer the questions. But the fact of the matter is, I'm pretty sure Blanchet nor Saint-Pierre Plamondon want to be perceived as stooges for Francois Legault. It doesn't mean that it won't happen down the line. The Bloc would use this for leverage. Although we have to be careful here, because if you just look at the standings that we have right now in the House of Commons, okay, fine. The Bloc goes, if we don't get what we want, we'll vote with the Conservatives. But then, if they vote with the Conservatives, the NDP can turn around and say, yeah, you know what, I don't feel like going to an election right now. We'll vote with the Liberals. And guess what? They're bulletproof. They can trade one for the other. For Pierre Poilievre to realize what appears to be his only purpose in life, which is to have a federal election, he needs the support of both parties. And it looks increasingly unlikely that he's going to get it. So this whole idea, all this drama that we're seeing, is just that. It's performance art. The problem still remains. Even if we were to turn off the faucet tomorrow and have zero immigration, we have a lot of people here who are not getting the services that they're supposed to be getting because we presume to let them into the country. That should be our number one priority. And indeed, I think if Justin Trudeau is sincere, he should be grabbing premiers like Doug Ford by the ear and saying, no, you're going to take more asylum seekers, and everybody else, everybody else in this federation is going to take their fair share of immigrants. And remember, I'm no fan of the CAQ or Francois Legault, but Quebec is getting screwed on this deal. We're getting more than half the asylum seekers that come to the entire country. And please, I have a very difficult time believing they came here for the joie de vivre. So, bottom line, this has got to be done. Unfortunately, we now have 5 political parties at the provincial and the federal level basically dancing around doing nothing, just performative politics. And as I say, don't expect the government to fall by Christmas. But in the meantime, this logistical problem of providing services for the people we invited into this country remains and is festering with every day.
What's interesting is, so I spoke to Mark Miller yesterday, right, the federal immigration minister, and the idea is, let's say you take some of these people coming here and out of Ontario and spread them across the country, because that's something they've been talking about. But the bottom line there apparently is there are provincial premiers not that anxious to do that. So you're kind of stuck.
They'll scream like banshees, right? Because this is the idea. It's great to wag the finger at the Trudeau government for your particular problem, but somehow the idea is like, what's really scary, and I think one of the most poisonous legacies of Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister of this country. We may have had a kind of situation like this before, but it's clear we're having 10 separate little petty kingdoms created in this country, each with its own agenda. Quebec is the only one that calls itself a nation, but quite frankly, the others are behaving the same damn way. And it does not bode well for the future of this country, because quite frankly, if you can't have a single voice when it comes to the issue of immigration, and yet you're inviting immigrants into the country, you've got some real problems. And the same premiers who are saying, oh, we can't take them, we don't have the resources, or we want more cash, or whatever, putting all kinds of conditions, will be the first in line, screaming, as I say, like banshees, if they're short of workers, if they're short of human resources in their province. So, you can't win on this, but quite frankly, as I say, for me, the problem is at the top. It's Justin Trudeau. And no, folks, before you start texting the show, I don't think Pierre Poilievre is a solution.
Let me go on and talk about this. I'd heard nothing about this. The Legault government, what are they doing? Redacting an analysis on impaired driving levels. Now, I know this story came up a while ago because, well, of course, the rest of the country has higher levels than we do. There's been resistance here. Is this that story?
Absolutely. And what's crazy is that the Quebec Automobile Insurance Board did a study on what the fallout would be if we reduced the 0.08 for police intervention when it comes to impaired driving to 0.05. Right. It would not be a criminal proceeding because the Criminal Code of Canada would have to be amended for that. But Quebec, I believe now, is the only jurisdiction left where it isn't 0.05. In other words, if you blow 0.05 at a roadblock, they'll take your car. You won't face any charges, but they'll just take your keys and your car, saying, you know what, you're impaired. You're not going to be driving. Get a cab, do whatever. A study was done. Monsef Daraji, Liberal MNA, puts an access to information request to get his hands on a copy of this study. He gets it. It's completely redacted. You think it was a secret intelligence report. He can't read it. There's nothing on it. And in fact, and he suggests that because Transport Minister Geneviève Guilbeault has been less than warm to the idea of joining the rest of the country in making our measures more severe, that's why we're not seeing this. That this is in fact a controversy or a question they'd like to see not just go away, but actually get painted over and forgotten about.
So what happens now that we know this? I mean, this is likely to come up again, or what?
Well, I would hope they raise it in question period. I would hope that Mothers Against Drunk Driving are very, very eloquent, very, very determined. Yeah. And the fact that when you see something like this on the part of this government covering up what could be a life-saving move, I'm very sorry, and I'm not holier than thou, but I also know that I drink, but I don't drink and drive. It's not worth it. And the idea, if you make it more difficult, if you put it to 0.05, I'm all for it. Somehow the rest of the country, Aaron, has been able to proceed on its way with that level of blood alcohol. So why Quebec has to be different? Mm-hmm. Spare me. It's not because we're distinct. I think it's just because we're cowardly. But all that said, make it an issue. Bring it up. Raise it. And if it turns around, we have to go back to having PSAs from Mothers Against Drunk Driving explaining the cost of drunk driving and how 0.05 could prevent even more incidents of drunk driving. Well, leave it to them. I think, I think the Legault government would be a lot more worried about hearing from MAD than they would from hearing about the Quebec Liberals.
Yeah, or for maybe bar and restaurant owners as well. I thought that was part of the issue here. They're not big on this either.
Well, I find that a bit hard to believe because you would really have to be, there have to be something broken inside of you if you figure that your alcohol receipts are more important than the safety of your customers.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sorry.
Jim, last thing I want to get to, I'm asking the question in a sec, so you can weigh in on this, but you have a story, or at least a headline today. How is it you cannot sell hockey tickets in Quebec City? We know that those two LA Kings exhibition games, last I saw yesterday, still 10,000 tickets unsold. Yeah. So what's the deal?
Well, the deal is I think in one of your previous lives, if you were ever confronted with a concert that was tanking, you'd always say, still plenty of good tickets available. Well, guess what? There's plenty of good tickets available for these exhibition games by the LA Kings. Remember the rationale, Aaron? Remember it was, the people of Quebec City, they're shedding tears of blood. They want hockey at the Videotron Center. It doesn't seem like it, and I'll bet you folding money, my friend. They'll be sold out all right, with a lot of, how can I put it, comps suddenly being handed out to friends of friends of friends of the party, and everyone will have a great time. But the fact of the matter is, as I say every single day, Aaron, I've never seen it this bad. This government, it's karma, it's catching up with them, but this government, everything that it thought it could get away with is coming back and just sinking its teeth into their butt on a daily basis, and this is one of them. So we haven't done talking about this, but once again, if you're talking about the President's Cup, I made my position clear yesterday. It's completely ridiculous that we do this, and maybe we'll learn our lesson. Who knows? But quite frankly, I'm sorry. $71 million because of a golf game, they'd have come anyway. I know people who follow these things around. They don't need, I don't know, whatever the hell the $6.5 million is doing, but it certainly didn't have to go to this.
So let me ask, and I'm not suggesting, Jim, I don't know that you necessarily have the answer, but I asked the question before, and it seems to me the biggest problem with this whole story is how much we don't know. So first of all, we're paying $6.5 million to bring this thing here this year, but the previous times it's been here, we've paid nothing. So wouldn't question one be, why do we have to pay now when we never did before?
Well, I mean, you're 100% right. That's pretty expensive for complimentary golf tees, if that's what we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's a weird figure, and I don't know what it's being used for, but quite frankly, it should have been 6.5 cents. Public money should not go into what is quite literally a sport played by millionaires and watched by people who would crawl to their graves to see it. It doesn't need that boost. It doesn't need that help. But here we are, and once again, Quebec, the same one. No, take our money. We don't need your money. Take our money, damn it. We want to give you the taxpayers' money. That's what we do here. It's part of our joie de vivre. Anyway, I think you know how I feel.
Sad but true. Well said. James, thanks so much.
Matt.